It also says that systematic racism represents in that community that affects that system of a school for children and their education is basically giving out loans and grants to people who are not of that community to exploit it. So that means that an Asian, a Arab, and a Jewish person will be incentivized via grants and loans to exploit that community to make sure that they don't enter the supremacy community and exploit that money, which means that Black people are being robbed and discriminated against and experiencing racism in two ways. First way is you are letting people that are not in our culture, incentivizing people that are not in our culture, sell goods and services in our culture. The second part is you are then incentivizing them being able to build their culture on our back, which is so much similar to the other part of America, which is how America is founded. They used us as a tool to build wealth and then built their own community in their own wealth.
Well,
Asian Americans get to sell products and goods to to our community and then build their own. Arabs get to sell products and goods and service to our culture,
okay.
expending from the $1.2 trillion spending power. Hold on.
I just want an
Expending from
opportunity to respond.
hold, I'm almost done. If my people, I'm talking about Black Americans, have $1.2 trillion in spending power, and you seeing other generations, to Amir's point, in 2, 3 generations, they're better off, which says one thing. They are being able to exploit and access our money through systematic oppression tools, which means that if you want to see what a Black person in America community would look like, you look to an Arab community and you look to an Asian community because they use systematic tools. Now that's just not to discredit this. This is pure fact. This is pure fact. So it's not to be discredited. But that's what systematic racism is. It isn't saying, and I'm not even going to be mad if somebody say I don't want you to live in this building. I'm not going to be too much mad if somebody say you got big lips or the N word versus you exploiting and dominating a whole community and
Okay.
giving and then
All
last
right.
part and I'll land. I will
My
yield
God.
here. The last part of this is they, although they incentivized it, they also forgave it, which means these people didn't have to spend any money to be able to access our money and build up their future generations. And that is a system put in play
Okay.
by white supremacy.
All right,
That's
Cloud.
all I'm
Now,
saying.
Cloud, let me say one thing.
hold on,
Cloud. Let me say
hold on.
one thing, Cloud.
Let
I'm
me
gonna say one
respond to
thing, and you can have it. Let me say one
it.
thing.
Go
You can
ahead.
have it. The Asians and the Arabs, they own nail salons, liquor stores, and gas stations in the hood and in the suburbs. I don't know where you be or if you be in both places, but if you go to the suburbs, they got the liquor stores and gas stations, and if you go to the hood, they got the liquor stores and gas stations. And if you go
Right.
to the suburbs, the Asians they got the nail salons, and in the hood they got the nail salons too. Is or the
Right.
beauty supply.
So I was going to speak on that. The thing is, the entire perspective is predicated on a false assertion, and that false assertion is the idea that, first off, you said that black people can't do that because can't do the same thing as them because black people don't have the power. But then in your same argument, you also mentioned that black people have have a high spending power. The reality is that black people do have power to influence white people, even though you said they don't. A perfect example of that is Target right now. Target right now is losing lots of money. Why? Because black people are boycotting. During Martin Luther King's time, they boycotted buses, and that's how they were able to get change. Black people have billions of dollars of spending power, and we absolutely have the power to affect white people. If me and 40 niggas decided to walk over to the next neighborhood and start shooting every white person we saw, we could change shit. If we decided to start burning down houses, shit would change. But again, black people keep perpetuating this idea that we don't have power. We don't have the power to be racist. We don't have the power to affect white people. We don't have power, and systematic racism is different because they have the power. It's a nonsense argument. We have just as long as you have physical bodies and people, you have power. So that's nonsense. The only lack of power that you can perceive is from the lack of organization. That's one thing. Now, another thing. You brought up loans and you brought up Arabs and Asians. Now, Arabs and Asians, like Coel said, they do business everywhere. I don't know if you, again, you say you've been outside the hood, like you keep saying you've been outside the hood, but you keep talking about the situation in black neighborhoods as though it's unique to black neighborhoods. There's a Chinese store in every neighborhood, black or white. I have literally been into the mountains in Washington where there's literally nothing but Native Americans and Mexicans, and there's Chinese restaurants there. Okay, Chinese people, that's just how they do business. They're everywhere. Asians are everywhere. The Arabs are everywhere. That's just how they do business. Now,
That's not.
you're talking about them getting loans. Now, this is the thing. There are several business loans for black people and specifically for black women to start businesses in the community. But you know what the problem is? The problem is that so many black people don't even look into it and take advantage of these programs because you know why? They believe the hype that America doesn't want to see them succeed. And so they don't know there are grants. They don't know that there are programs that they can get for their business. How do I know they exist? I got one last year as a black man.
That's you.
Now let most people in the hood tell it to you. Let most black people in the hood tell it to you. Oh, America won't forgive your debts. I've gotten loans from the government that have been forgiven, but you wouldn't know about all of that because again, they're gonna tell black people they can't have nothing, they can't start businesses. That's not the problem. The problem is that culturally we're not business minded, which is why the government has to incentivize Asians and Arabs to have services in our neighborhoods. You want to know why? Because if they didn't, there would not be services in the neighborhood. You go through some black neighborhoods where the only food to eat.
He's not. You can't be American.
Go to some neighborhood. What are you talking about? The next neighborhood over from me. The next neighborhood over from me is a 5-mile radius where the only food you can eat is Chinese. What are you talking about? In my neighborhood, matter of fact, in my neighborhood, the only food options, if you want to talk about the food options available, are Caribbean food, Hispanic food, and Asian food. There is no American food available. Nobody's opening up American food right now.
That was designed.
He's not. I think he's having a different black experience, so I wouldn't. I would just not respond to it.
Hey. Black women are just so dedicated. Black women are so dedicated to not understanding the black man.
He's not black. He's not American. It's like this is the reality. Like black people have plenty of power. It's just that because they keep listening to this nonsense rhetoric, they don't use it. You don't think you could get loans and start a black food restaurant in your neighborhood? Sure, you could. All you got to do is go learn the business, learn how to get the machines, learn the equipment, get the rent space, get the loans, because guess what? You can get them. This idea that they don't give black people funding is bullshit.
Dude,
I done got more than 100,000 in funding just last year. What are we even talking about? It's easy funding. As long as you pay it back, you can get funding.
That's
the
not
problem
true.